Look, we got to go ahead and move on. Ladies and gentlemen, you are here on Washington Football Weekly. And Will, there has been a lot obviously going on, but more importantly, last week started training camp. Yeah, buddy. Training camp is back. Week 1 is in the books. And honestly, Will, I'm excited about it. Mm-hmm. But after the initial excitement goes away, now let's get down to football. Now let's critique the team. And there's a lot of things, that are kind of that we've seen. And I'm gonna let you go ahead and go. What are some of your thoughts? We talked about our initial thoughts a week ago. We got 1 week under our belts. Where are you at with how things are going?
Yeah. So from what we're hearing, it kind of sounds like the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense right now, which might surprise us a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. It seems like it's a couple of days. It's been real bad.
Right.
Thinking that how our defense was going to struggle, that was a little bit surprising. But it was also a good chance to hear from some of the reporters talking about how there aren't pads on. The offense isn't scheming. They're trying stuff. So temper your expectations, temper the concerns, but it's good to hear that, it's a year 2 of some of these guys, William Jackson with Kendall Fuller, so it's good to hear that maybe he's doing better. Hearing some good things about a couple players. Not surprisingly, our defensive line is doing really well.
Yes. Yeah.
You would think that, but love hearing that Montez Sweat's really firing off the ball. We need a big year from him, so I like to hear that. The other one is how Deron Payne looks like a man on a mission.
Oh, yeah.
And he might be a man on a mission trying to get paid. So we talked about, hey, what was he going to be like this year? Was he going to be a disgruntled, I'm just going to do what I need to do to get through the next season? Mm-hmm. Or was he going to take it serious? And it looks like it's going to take it serious to the point where what I was really surprised to hear is they mentioned how the team has not stopped talking about extending him. They're just trying to figure out, do we have the cap to do it? Not necessarily that's going to happen now, but we think he's out of the picture for next year. And that may not be the case. And so he's playing well, which is good to hear. Who have you heard about?
Well, but I'll tell you in a minute, but going back on that, with that Deron Payne thing, one of the things that I was listening to is that, we could always tag him, and make sure we keep it. And I wonder if they're seeing if this progresses, if he continues to dominate, and how that translates into the season, while always having the safety blanket of Darian Mathis behind him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, Darian Mathis obviously is not at that level with experience-wise, but at the same time, he's been showing signs, same pedigree of Alabama. You know what I mean? So, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. One of the other people you talked about, I mentioned one of the things I was looking forward to this training camp was to see the secondary, and they have not disappointed. No. You know what I mean? They have showed out. You mentioned Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller has 4 interceptions in that first week.
I think so.
Would have had 5. But my guy, De'Ami Brown, had to snatch that ball out the sky, baby.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
Yeah, buddy. But so, I mean, honestly, that secondary is looking good. One of the other guys we talked about a lot, William Jackson. William Jackson has been known for, his cover, his man-to-man, but in that zone, it wasn't working for him. And a lot of the things that I think that, it's easy if, on Madden, you can do, I can cover him, or, if you're covering normally, but when you're going into that zone, you have to train your eyes. If you've been focusing on, I'm just covering one-on-one, I'm just covering this guy, you have to train your eyes to believe, okay, now this guy's coming out, I'm sticking here. So I got to wait for the next guy to come into that spot. And in year 2 of this system, I'm hoping, and we're seeing a little bit of progress from him, and I'm excited to see that. But yeah, honestly, that secondary has been showing me stuff. That defense, obviously, they've been doing stuff. But I don't know if I could say full defense. I could say D-line
Yeah.
As Kat goes through the background. Shout out to my baby girl. And then I could say secondary because those linebackers are still kind of.
We're pretty thin. Although, did you hear about your boy? I was holding off to give you the chance.
Come
he
on.
was getting a shout out. They say
it's always better when you say it.
Everywhere. Yeah,
Look,
they say, as we know, he's a tackling machine.
Yep.
And they just say he's flying around everywhere. So we're worried about the linebackers, and he's taken over as the play caller of the defense. And so it's a big training camp for him to see, can he do this? Can they go into that 5-2 more often, or do they have to play, more? Can they play more DB? So I heard that on the pod that we both shared, and I was like, I hope you were distracted at that time.
I was like, oh, yes, I know it. But you know what? And speaking of that, at the linebacker position, another thing they talked about in the podcast was Jamin Davis. Mm-hmm. What is year 2 going to be like for him? And I think a lot of that is predicated on Cole Holcomb. If Cole Holcomb is the guy and it can work in this system, then I think Jamin Davis will then be able to go in here, work with him, and be more free to roam around as Cole Holcomb takes the lead position in that.
Yes.
But I really want to see this. I mean, shout out to the guest we have on who called it, saying we're going to pick Jamin Davis. We did. Unfortunately, this year didn't pan out the way we wanted it to. Year 2 in the system. You're familiar now. We talked about him making moves and looking a lot better. I'm excited to see it. I'm interested to see what he comes to the table with.
Absolutely. I think preseason game number 2 or 3 are going to be real important to see him in the beginning. How is he playing? Is he playing instinctually?
Yep. Or
is he playing hesitant? Is he seeing plays develop and he can, make a play basically. So it'll be big. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go into it. We've kind of talked about some of them, but let's talk about this right now, the positives. Some of the things that you've seen that you like. And we don't have to just stick on the defense because obviously the defense is full of positives. Mm-hmm. Let's touch on some of that offensive stuff as well.
Right. Good segue. Yeah, who's starting off camp hot? It's the guy we said to keep your eyes on. Mm-hmm. That tight end out of Nevada.
Cole. Yep.
Yeah, they're talking about him being a big red zone threat and really, looking the part as a pass catcher. They have said that all of the tight ends had needed a little bit of work on blocking, but he seems to be, and he's working on that hard. But from a pass catching offensive weapon, he certainly seems to be making some plays. Also, to steal your lines, shout out to Ab last week. I heard some things about his guy Armani Rogers.
Yeah,
saying that he's really progressing this week, really showing his athleticism out there and really making some plays. So good call by him. Ab picked him to make the roster, and he's looking to early on doing well.
Oh, absolutely. And sticking in that tight end group, you have Curtis Hodges. You know what I mean? He's another one who's been working with the twos, and they were talking about he caught a ball in the back in the end zone thrown by Heineke, where he had to extend, and he was up there, but he had the size, he had the presence, and we've talked about that. We talked about that last year, needing that red zone target. With the absence of Logan Thomas, we need somebody that can be able to go up in there and do it. Cole Turner, he's another one that has been doing that in the red zone. So that tight end group is something that's really been impressing me. Yeah. You mentioned Cole. You were the first person to mention that to me. So I'm really excited to see kind of how they progress and how they live. Because what I've heard is while, Hodges and Turner are good, there's still rookie moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Turner can't kind of get his head around quick enough, and I've heard that Turner is not the blocker that John Bates is.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And so that is a huge thing, because then is he just going to be the guy you put in the slot and run up the field? But then as soon as he comes in, okay, this is what they're doing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Like when early Jordan Reed packages where you knew he was just out there as a receiver. And then Logan Paulson would run out here and be like, oh, they're running to the right. Logan Paulson's at the end of the line. Oh, you should drive me nuts sitting at FedEx like, I can predict this.
Right.
This is not good.
I know it's happening.
Right. I shouldn't from the stands. Yeah. You know who the other guys is starting to stand out, and I almost feel like we're forgetting about him because we kind of expected it, and we're forgetting about him just like we did Terry, is our rookie wide receiver is balling out.
Yep.
And it's almost to the point now where we're all just like, yeah, we've heard so much good things about him that we're just like, oh yeah, Dotson's looking good. Yep, he's open again. Yep, he's quick. It's like that's really exciting because we need more weapons on offense. And the fact that he is playing so well early on in camp, and just like Terry seems to have that maturity in his game, along with kind of in his life, it's really exciting. And I don't think we hype him up enough.
No, and you're absolutely right. And a lot of what they've been saying is like he's had one wow catch every single practice. Like he's one that makes you be like, this guy is for real. So I am so glad that he's continued it from OTAs to training camp, and it's just back to business. I don't need to talk about it. We know he has the best hands at coming out of the draft, and his work, his size was something we were worried about, but they've said that he's caught passes in the corners of the end zone and behind defenders and things like that. He knows he's a ball hawk. He knows where he had to get the ball and do what needs to be done. So I'm excited because that continued. And that's something that's, it's one thing in OTAs when, you're pitch and catch. But as you start getting into the defense and getting into guard, actual full zones and coverages and this and that, it's interesting to see that he's continuing to do what we want him to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I'm hyped about that. But we do have to be honest. We are very honest. And we do need to talk about the negatives. And our boy, Carson. I mean, look, there's moments. I think Friday he started off 6 of 6, hitting boom, 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 just fitting in tight windows, off his back foot, 40 yards, getting it, doing what he needed to do. And then it's just like, some of these are just like, what? This is what we didn't want. This is what we were hesitant about. So I'm eager to see if he can kind of get it together. Honestly, like you mentioned earlier, the offense it's pretty vanilla. We're not really showing anything. We're not game planning for anything. So the defense really kind of has the upper hand. But my worry is that we know he has that highlight, top 10 pick potential. We know he has that ability. But I'm worried about if the trust and the confidence in himself has just so deteriorated. Not on just this moment, not on just this, but the fact that sometimes it's really nice and sometimes it's like
what are you doing out here?
Right. Yeah. So talk to me. I mean, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because he had a practice this week where he threw like 3 or 4 picks in a row. And there's like, what's going on out here? And some of his throws he's starting to get a little inaccurate. And what's a little bit concerning is he said at the beginning of training camp, I practice like it's a game. So it'd be one thing if he's like Ryan Fitzpatrick was like, yeah, it's practice. I'm going to try and fit the ball in there, so at least you can kind of like, okay. Well, he's doing what he won't do in the game. But if Carson's going to say he's practicing like he would in a game and he's throwing erratic passes or throwing it to the wrong team, that's a little bit of a problem. Now, I will say this. I think the big part is the fact you said it. It's a vanilla offense. They're not scheming for, right now, if you wanted to score on us, you would attack our linebackers all day. It reminded me of that game against Philly where that's all they did was they just, they'd run play action, they'd run it, play action, and then they'd throw it, 5 to 10 yards downfield, right over the middle, where our poor linebackers couldn't cover their running backs and
the hole was
tight ends. Yeah. And, and that's how you'd attack us right now. So if they wanted to kind of, get some momentum rolling for him, they could, and they're not. But you don't like hearing these reports. This is your quarterback. This is he's in a new system. You want to have feel-good stories about the quarterback, and we're not getting it so far, but I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet. I don't know how you're feeling. I'm like out of a 10 alarm scale. I'm at like a 3 still right now. I'm not worried yet.
Yeah. And again, I know what I was saying earlier. I'm not off the wagon or anything like that. My opinion is I just think he's there's certain things that you see from the past that you're just like, I just want to see anything but that. You know, I want to see anything but you going throwing wild passes, or you're doing these type of things that I feel like just are bad habits. You know, I liked when we first came in and he was saying, "Oh, I'm talking, walking with Scott Turner. Okay, why do you want me to go here? Learning, the involvement of the offense and which moves he needed to make, and I love that. But it's seeming like once that pressure comes, it's like here we go again. So but as we know, he's still so much better than Heineke. He has the ability that Heineke does not have. He can fit it in windows. He can, like I said, throw off his back foot 40 yards and be on a dime. Like, he can do those things, but like you said, he does have the propensity of doing 4 interceptions in a row, and you're just like, what? You know what I mean? And his back is like, no, you know what I mean? So that is something that's kind of got to me. What are some things outside of Carson that maybe are some negatives?
Yeah, so there's been a little bit of concern about our offensive line, which is a little concerning. I know we're going to hit injuries here in a little bit, but one of our starting guards, Trey Turner's been out the last couple of days, and they've been kind of rotating guys in. So that's not real good to hear that we got 2 new guards and they're not really gelling just right now. However, we got to remember, like, they're not wearing pads.
Yeah,
I'm sure if you try and block, Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne without pads, where you're not really able to do a whole lot. I mean, I can understand why they may be struggling a little bit out there. But again, that's the offensive line is key for us this year, and they made important decisions on letting some folks go and bringing in new folks and kind of getting a little bit more athletic versus as bulky as they were. So we want to make sure that's working right for us.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking to see some folks that we let go, Mr. Brandon Scher, I don't believe he's playing tonight. I think
he's inactive.
Yeah, he's inactive, so he will not be on it. So you're looking to see him, he won't be there. But a lot of people, Trevor Lawrence, ETN, a lot of those guys aren't playing tonight either. So, no. So, one of the things that kind of that's really been kind of getting to me is just some of the inconsistencies, and we do have to put in the fact that the line, there's been just a heavy turnover, guys coming in and out. I love Chase Roulier is back, but not really fully back into things. He's kind of working back into the system, but like you said, with Turner being out, the defense, it's the same guys coming up there with the exception of maybe Chase, but they still. My guy out of Michigan State, Mr. Jacob Panizak. Yeah, come on. Go ahead and tell the story, Will. Tell what you told me, baby.
Yeah. They were talking about how he was making the pass rush presence there for a little bit.
Let's go.
This unknown kid from Michigan State.
Let's go.
But did you also hear him say, well, he's probably going to be like a practice squad guy to watch.
Hey,
there's a lot of time, though. A lot of time to make a name.
Just keep him on the team. We're good to go. We're good to go. But yeah, no. So, I mean, with that, we want to see your guys kind of get back together. But again, this is the first week. We're just getting into everything. Things start to change when padded practice comes about. Will, talk to me about, how the new feel now with the padded practice.
It did. Well, we were just talking about offensive line, and putting pads on made a difference. That's what they were talking about. When they were able to use their hands and kind of punch some of those guys and hit them a little bit, they were able to slow down some of that pass rush for offensive line. So they said there was a big improvement there when pads came on. So that was good to hear. From the beginning of the week to the middle of the week now, there's been a big difference in how our offensive line's doing. So that was nice. The other positive that came from the padded practice was our boy Fedarian Mathis. They were talking about how he's so big, you got a chance to see something he can do where basically that center's not moving him. Yeah. Where they're not expecting him to rush the passer, but it was like, you're not moving this guy. Yeah. You better run around him now. and you can't see that until you put pads on. And that's kind of what they were talking about. They're like, oh, you really get a chance to see what they saw in his ability, because coming out of Alabama, people were like, well, you drafted him high. He's not a pass rush specialist. This is what they were looking for. That run stuffer, that guy that's going to open up the linebackers and sweat to rush. So that was good. So those are two positives. Oh, yeah. The negative was all these DBs that have been, just eaten out there. Now they had to get a little more physical, and they were getting a little handsy out there.
Right.
And our wide receivers were having a little bit of some fun with it, getting a chance to get open, when they're not just running in shorts and running stride for stride with them. So that was kind of interesting. It just seemed like the offense had a chance to catch up a little bit, basically. It's kind of just to sum it up.
And it was funny because you heard stories one day where they were all the receivers were catching balls, catching TDs, and Terry McLaurin was like, "We all eating today." You know what I mean? It's like, let's go. You love that back and forth between the offense and the defense. So hey, padded practice. I mean, this is that time when it starts to get physical. You know what I mean? I absolutely love it. I remember it from high school, and whenever I played, it's the time when really the rubber meets the road. Like it's like, okay, here we go. So I love that. I love what I'm seeing. It just makes us know football is here. It's absolutely here. So hey, that's perfect. And look, that's been training camp, honestly, for the first week, and kind of getting into this week. We're going to be following that as we move along this off season. But we got a lot more stuff for you, man. So
thanks for watching. If you like that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.